Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am your host Jenna.
And I'm your host Holly.
And today we have some really exciting guests brought on today. Holly is kind of like the queen of collaboration with the Stygian collection. So I felt like it was, we both felt like it was time to have some guests on the podcast. So these are our first guests, and we would just love for you guys to meet them. And as we talk about collaboration, hopefully be able to inspire you to collaborate with your community as well.
Yeah, we one of the things we were most excited about doing with this new season of the podcast was having some guests on. So I, of course, immediately thought on this topic of having our latest Stygian author, Matt Pohl, on, and our artist for his work, Dark Flock, NYCO RUDOLPH. So if you guys each want to just give a little hello and intro, you don't have to do anything too crazy. Matt, if you want to start us off.
Okay. Hi, my name's Matt. I like being alone in the woods.
Perfect.
Succinct. That is very succinct. My name's NYCO. I'm an artist and writer living in the heart of Treaty 1 territory. And I love drawing things that live in the woods. I like spending time in the woods too, but I like drawing a lot of things that live in the woods.
Perfect. You when I was looking for an artist for Dark Flock, which is a book of freaky feathered fiction in Matt's new subgenre, which is Twilight Zone birding, which gives you an idea of how interesting and unique this project is. When I was looking for the perfect artist for it, I thought, B movies and has to be able to draw animals, and the most perfect person for that is NYCO. And we'll probably either get some visuals on the screen, but at the very least we'll be linking the book out and everyone's profiles on social media, so you can check what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear some more about Dark Flock from both the artist and the writer perspective of the story, because I've seen it all over social media, obviously. And if for starters, the hook on the writing side is very captivating. And then secondly, the cover and the art that I've seen from the book as well is stunning. So you both have such big parts in creating the project in such a unique way. So I'd love to hear more about kind of your experience and your inspiration, behind writing it, and also what kind of inspirations you might have taken for, the art itself, for whoever wants to jump first.
Matt, I guess since this is your initial concept, it makes sense for you to start us off.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I'm a birder. That's why I like being alone in the woods. So, some people say bird watcher. I say birder. Same thing. And yeah, I just while I was birding all the time, I would always sort of be thinking. I like birding alone, and I would always be kind of coming up with crazy ideas as I'm birding. Kind of hunting trying to find these rare birds and kind of coming up with stories about them. Or like I have a story, The War of the Buntings, which came when I was just sitting there birding, and there was one little group of birds over here and another little species over here, and it seemed like they were meeting in like a war, like a skirmish line as soldiers, and they all kind of met along this path, and they were all yelling and chattering at each other. And I was wondering, what would happen if that was like Game of Thrones with birds, and I suddenly could understand what they were saying. So I just started writing all these little stories that involved birding, and then I was getting a few published, and then I realized I had a critical mass at one point of published kind of fantasy, sci-fi, whatever stories, Twilight Zone birding, or for the younger people, X-Files birding, I also call it sometimes. And I realized, oh my gosh, I might have created a subgenre of bird watching kind of fantasy sci-fi stories. So I just kept going, and it just turns out that there's no end of ideas and scenarios that you can use when it comes to birding and sci-fi, and that all comes from, I think, I was reading the Stephen King book On Writing, which is incredible. I read it every few years, and he was saying something like, write what you know. So he was saying, if you're a plumber and you want to write a sci-fi book, write a sci-fi story about a plumber in space type thing, So I was just like, all right, I'll write what I know, and I basically just know birds. So here we are.
And yeah, you have come up with such a variety. When you say sci-fi, there's like sci-fi, fantasy, post-apocalyptic. It goes all over the place. So there's kind of something for everyone in this book. And that's why we needed to publish it, especially when you gave that first pitch of Twilight Zone burning. I was like, okay, all right, we need this.
Thank you. Forgot
NYCO
there's a
came into
romance.
things.
You forgot the romance.
Yes, there's a romance as well. Very
It's
cute
all
romance.
about it's all about the meet cute.
Yeah, that's our intermission piece. So if you pick up the book, you'll also see that we've kept that movie vibe going a little bit throughout, and it's one of my favorite things that we sorted out as we were collaborating.
The if I can jump in here,
Yes.
the variety of stories and genres and stuff is one of the things that kind of like really attracted me to the project when you kind of reached out to me initially, and just sort of just getting like sort of reading the book and just seeing the like I said, the variety of different genres that are explored, and just thinking about how I was going to be able to use my my sort of creative, like my drawing skills and stuff, to kind of like play around with different sort of aesthetics and different like just different techniques and stuff. Like that was really, really fun. That was really exciting as a project, because so many projects are kind of just have like one note that you're supposed to hit, and which is fine. I mean, I enjoy doing that too, but there's something about a project, like a book project, that's kind of a lot bigger than just doing a one-off poster for somebody, where you're doing a book cover, you're doing a bunch of interior illustrations, and when you have like that variety of different sort of sandboxes that you get to play in a bigger project like that, it's always so fun. And so that was one of my favorite parts about it. And the first thing that I kind of like fell in love with this project was just the variety.
Yeah, and in the art, it allowed you to have, just to sort of describe the spectrum, one of the pinups that NYCO did is, Muka inspired. And then we have another one that's Attack of the Killer Tits, that's full on like pulp B movies. So you have quite a range.
Yeah. Well, and the Art Nouveau one, like that's like, I've always kind of appreciated Art Nouveau, but never had, it's kind of funny, like when you're an artist or any sort of creator for hire, a lot of times you can kind of do whatever you want, but sometimes you need like a push from somewhere to do it. Like I've, an example of that would be like, I've always wanted to draw, I'm kind of obsessed with like 1930s sort of like architecture and sort of aesthetic. And I'm just like, I've always just loved the look of like, of an old like blimp, it's just a very, just kind of a really cool look. And I'm like, well, what was stopping me for the past 20 years from drawing blimps? I'm like, nothing, but I just never got around to it. And it just, all it took was one client recently. There was like a beer, like a brewery that came to me and had an idea for a design that had blimps on it. I'm like, oh my God, yes, I finally get to draw a blimp.
Finally, blimps.
Yeah, not that anything was stopping me from doing it before, but when you're a creator sometimes and you do it for a living, it's kind of like, it's hard to justify taking the time off to kind of just do something you enjoy. And so that was, a really cool thing about Dark Flock, is just there was a lot of different inspirations, a lot of like artistic inspirations that have always meant a lot to me, but I've never really sort of never really was able to like explore them before. And so I sort of tried to get a lot of those out with this book, where I was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to do like a 1920s Art Nouveau piece, and I've just never had I've never had the time or the right, kind of the right image. And then, with the illustrated Queenfisher, which is one of the short stories in Dark Flock, I was like, that's it. That would be a perfect, like I could just see the vision in my head, see the image in my head perfectly before I even started sketching it out. Like I knew exactly what I wanted it to look like. And so that was just really fun.
I think that's one of the, initially great things about collaboration, on the topic that we're literally talking about right now, is that we can sometimes, as creatives, no matter if you're a writer, an artist, a painter, whatever your art medium is, we pigeonhole ourselves by going, this is what's comfortable, this is what I'm used to. And then we want to explore so many other things, but we justify it with, well, I'm not making money that way. Well, the client didn't specifically ask for that. Well, you know, we come up with a million excuses to stay in the comfort zone. But then when we actually collaborate with other people, we have all of this expansion of, oh, they're giving me so many ideas. They actually want this, which I've never tried before. Let me dive into it. And we can find brand new passions or things that we realize we're really talented in that we wouldn't have known before if we hadn't actually stepped out of, you know, our comfort zone, reached out to other people, and then discovered all these new talents within us we didn't even know before. So I think that's beautifully said.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, I don't want to speak for you, Matt, so I'll let you continue after this, but I do think that as we were collaborating, because one of the things with the Stygian Society is we are really focused on having the author have a strong say in everything that's going on, which you don't usually get in publishing. Like a lot of the time in trad publishing, if you get picked up by a publisher, they're going to determine that cover and that's it. Like you're not going to get to decide, and they'll be like, here's your cover. And if you hate it, then too bad. So we really tried to foster this thing where Matt was having a say throughout the entire process. And I think that was, from what I saw that you said, Matt, I think that was kind of an exciting thing for you too, just to see like NYCO as he read your works and got inspired by them, and perhaps maybe added stuff to them that you hadn't even imagined when you were writing them.
Yeah, no, it was definitely great. You know, with NYCO, we were kind of behind the scenes on our own, like back channel emails, bouncing stuff back and forth. And you know, he'd send me an email and be like, "Does the foot on this bird look okay?" You know, and we'd be discussing like the width of specific like bird species legs and stuff. And so we had a lot of that going on behind the scene that no one else even saw. So, and he was very eager to get like all the birds right to my satisfaction. You know, he's like, if your birder friends are going to see this, like I want to make sure that the beak, like you said, you know, like I'll say, oh, the beak is a little heavy on this bird. And so NYCO was very eager to get everything right to the satisfaction of the birder, you know, like sort of because birders might read this and because I'm a birder. So that was awesome that he was sort of jumping outside maybe of his non-birder comfort zone and trying to figure out what a birder would see in his art, which I guess normally he doesn't have to worry about. And so that was awesome. And also on collaboration, I don't know if you're going to get into this later, but with Pam, the editor too, it was a very collaborative kind of give and take. Like I've worked with a lot of editors where it's like my way or the highway, and that's fine. You know, you got to pick your battles as a writer and try to save the darlings that you want to, and sometimes the editors just slaughter the rest. But with Pam, it was a very like collaborative. I mean, there's no better word, you know. And there were things that we worked out and not butted heads on, but like, you know, every now and again you got to pick your battles, and but I would say that like the Pam and NYCO and you and everybody at Stygian, it very much felt different working together with everyone. It felt like I was surrounded by a team, a glowing circle of benevolence. You know, it wasn't like experiences I've had in the past. So yeah, that's my rambling collaboration rant.
We lured you carefully out of the forest.
Yes, with pishing. There's a birding technique called pishing, where if there's a little, it's called an LBJ, little brown jobby, a little brown bird that skulks and you can never see it, so you have to go psh, 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 and then the bird kind of pops up. It sort of sounds like a generic alarm call. So there's any, you know, pishing in the wind. There's all kinds of pishing jokes. But the craziest thing I ever heard was it was a CD and a book of like how to pish. I think it was from 20 years ago. And it was just this crazy dude who wrote this book. He's like, this is a knockdown pish. If a bird is flying by, you go, and then the bird will stop and perch and look at you. And anyways, I'll probably write a story about pishing. I don't know how I got on this tangent, but yeah, Stygian pished me out of the bushes. I wandered out in a daze out of the bushes.
Yeah. when I'm back in Montreal, next time I walk down your street, I'll just go psh, psh, psh.
Oh, I'll pop right out of the bushes. Yeah, that's where I'll be. Yeah, that's where I usually am. Hey, you in the bushes. That's what people call me.
But I mean, like, you know, that kind of, you know, even ties into as well. I know it's a joke, but like at the same time, you know, creatives can be really recluse, you know, and it's through the collaboration that we all kind of come out of our shells and like shells and get to meet other people. So, you know, I think that, you know, it's a hilarious joke, but also like that it's really deep and sweet when you can actually like connect with other people, whether virtually or in person through, you know, collaborating with them either on a project, a podcast, whatever it might be. I think that's one of the, you know, the really nice things. I know like me and Holly literally met and started, you know, becoming friends and everything, and then met in person, started this podcast, all that stuff, because she cold emailed me. Like that's all it took, was just a cold email. And now, like, you know, I consider us very, very close, and, you know, I love her to pieces. So, you know, one cold email was all it took.
Yeah, I reached out actually when we were planning things for the Stygian collection. I was like, hey, I see you on AuthorTube. I'd love to get a piece of writing from you. And Jenna wasn't able to at the time, unfortunately, but at least it kicked everything else off. So we were back and forth a little bit about the collection. And then Jenna actually put out just a post on Instagram being like, hey, I kind of want to do like a witchy writing podcast. I was like, yes, this is my thing, and the rest is history. And we've never had a like bad moment, honestly. And one of the reasons I thought it would be fun to have all four of us together is because I think these are such great examples of collaboration. Because like when I put you guys together, like Matt and NYCO, I was just like, this works, and luckily it did. And that was kind of what happened with me and Jenna too, where came together. It was like, is this, I don't know, let's see. And everything actually just went completely smoothly and perfectly. And I think it was just in both cases due to like the openness to collaborate and the appreciation of the other art that, like, you know, that the other person is doing, and just respect and stuff like that. And I think those are really important elements when you come together to collaborate with someone.
Yeah. That's definitely one thing that, it's always like, I've definitely, I don't know, I don't want to call it like a spidey sense, but there's almost like there are so many people out there who would want to collaborate, but it's like, it's so hard to kind of I shouldn't say that it's hard to find the right people, but it's like there are a lot of people who it's like it's almost like dating. It's like you need to find, like, there's tons of people out there, but it's like not everybody's going to fit. You know, you're not going to fit together with everybody. And so yeah, when I was younger, you know, sort of just trying to like kind of get my foot in the door and basically, you know, trying to do art full time, and just kind of saying yes to any person who wanted to collaborate, and like you know, whether or not I loved their project or not, I was just like so eager. And like it's tricky because it's like you don't want to be reclusive and never work with anybody, but you also have to, it's like, yeah, you kind of have to figure out where your energy is going to be best spent, I guess, because all of us have like a limited amount of time and creative energy to put into something. And yeah, you don't want to be like you don't want to be like overly protective of it, or, you know, sort of like, this is mine and nobody can have it. But it's like, but kind of like sort of like recognizing your own gifts and just like being judicious about who you share them with, because you have to be, like I said, if you were just going to share your skills with everybody, like you wouldn't have anything left over. Like there's no shortage of people who want to work with an artist or want to work with a writer, like, but it's like, well, who do I fit best with, you know? And I think that's collaboration, you know. That's like, those are the best collaborations is when you find those people, and you just, you know, like that's the funny thing is I don't think I've ever like had to work very hard, That, I don't know. That's another way that it's kind of, that it almost kind of reminds me of, like, you know, dating relationships, where it's like, when it's the right person, like, you're still gonna have to like figure things out, but when it's the right person, you don't have to be like, well, I don't know, I don't really like them, but maybe if we work together a little bit, I'll get used to them. Like,
Yeah.
like you're kind of, you meet someone, you know, you learn, you see what their project is, you see who they are as a creator, and you're either like, yeah, I like this person, I like what they're doing, or you're like, I don't know if this is for me. But, you know, it's like, I don't know, in my experience anyway, I kind of know I feel like I kind of, yeah, I don't want to call it a spidey sense, but I almost kind of like, I can tell right away if I'm gonna like jive with someone, or if I'm like, yeah, I don't think we're supposed to work together. Like, I don't really think this is going to work the way that I don't think this is good for either of us, you know? So it's interesting. It's interesting to sort of figure out who, like, yeah, just where, how to know, how to trust your own instincts, who to collaborate with, you know? It's tricky. It can be tricky.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, part of the thing that made me like jump on you so quickly for this project was because we had actually collaborated in the past.
Yeah.
And it was funny because when I saw the old article, I had realized it was like exactly a decade to the point where we collaborated again. And it had always just been this thing where, like, you know, when we worked together before, we were very much on the same wavelength of like, here's my vision, you got it immediately. And it was just a smooth, like, friendly process. And that's, you know, pretty much what you can ask for when, like, all you can ask for when you're collaborating is that you understand the vision. That's a big part of it. Like with me and Jenna, we both understood the vision of what we were doing here. So every step of the way, it's been like, yes, I love that design. Yes, I love that trailer. Like, Jenna had this trailer concept, and I was like, that's exactly perfect. And it's so nice when things can happen that way.
Totally. Well, and I think that was, like, I mean, another, you know, I talked before about one of my favorites. One of the first things that kind of drew me to Matt's book was, you know, just the variety of topics and the variety of kind of genres and stuff. But one thing that I really like, the secondary thing, actually, maybe the first thing that I really responded to before even realizing that his book kind of touched on like science fiction, horror, comedy, drama, romance, before even realizing that, it was just this, like, I am so on board with anybody who's telling a story about animals fucking things up. Sorry, pardon my language. Animals.
Oh no, we swear on this
secret,
podcast.
Okay. Like the secret worlds of animals, and just like how little people know about what could be happening in the animal kingdom that we would have no idea about. Anybody who's making a story about that, I'm just like, I'm instantly there. Like, I love that. And so that was kind of the first thing where I'm like, wait a minute. So it's just like people are just completely oblivious, or they're like starting to see clues of like this sort of upcoming bird apocalyptic, like kind
bird
of
apocalyptic
event, but like people can't really see the whole picture. And I'm like, I love that. And that was like the first thing that kind of, I was like, yes, I'm down with this. And I'm like, oh, and then, oh, cool. There's a bunch of different notes and genres I get to play with, even better. But yeah, that was kind of like a really, like I said, like a lot of my favorite collaborations and covers I've done for different books have kind of had that common sort of theme of just like people and humanity, and like the arrogance of humanity, thinking that, you know, we have everything, you know, we're at the top of the heap, and then kind of Mother Nature in one form or another being like, you know, kind of taps us on the shoulder and be like, I don't think so. So that was one thing I really enjoyed about that I really kind of like picked up when I was reading Dark Flock, is it was just kind of, you know, and just all the stories kind of had these little moments like that. And so I really loved that. And that was, like that kind of writing, you know, for me, that's that, like, I read something like that and I immediately feel kind of connected to the writer. You know, I was just like, I think I like with this. I mean, I imagine I'm like, am I reading too much into this, Matt? Is that?
I don't know. As you were saying that, I just sort of realized that there is a common thread of like, in a lot of the stories, the birds kind of have the final say, you know, like F you humanity.
Yeah.
But no, I guess that's how I feel. You know, when I'm out birding, I'm just like, oh, I'm so glad I'm with like birds and not people, because you know, people they just they're on the whhole pretty disappointing. Present company accepted. But also, I guess that's also touching on the war of the buntings, where we have no idea what they're saying. But part of, you know, like when we hear birds singing, we go, wow, that's so beautiful. Like, oh, what a beautiful song. But what the birds are really saying, they're either like, they're trying to establish territory and defend territory and find a mate. So this bird is standing on the corner basically saying, anyone want to bang? Anyone want to have sex? Let's mate. That, or they're like, don't come near me or I'll kill you. Or they're also saying, you know, I'm going to come and steal your mate and kill you and break your eggs and steal everything you have. So when we hear all these, you know, the dawn chorus, all these beautiful birds, oh, look, listen to the robin singing. So what it's really all about sex and violence. So I thought that's pretty. That's also where I was coming at with War of the Buntings, and I actually wrote a story about that, but it's not quite finished. But maybe I'll dust that one off.
Nice.
Would love to see that. I actually wanted to ask you, Matt, if you had, because I know a bit more about NYCO's creative past and projects and stuff, and there's been a lot of collaboration in there. But have you collaborated in any way on your stories previously, Matt? Like, have you had many experiences that were similar at all to this, or was this kind of your first go at big creative collaboration?
This was kind of it. I mean, I write also for a relaxation app. So I write stories that are boring and they put people to sleep. So that's good for great for a writer's ego. But I do collaborate.
Yeah, as a publisher, I'm like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah. It's just and it's it's a totally different writing thing anyways, you know, trying to write these very kind of almost formulaic, put you to sleep stories. But with those, I would work with the editors, but they're great, but most of the time it does feel more like homework, kind of like this is your assignment, you know, and this is what we want. And so it is a collaboration of a sort, but this is much more like with Stygian, it's much more, you know, freestyle and jazz and improvising and kind of running and gunning. And you know, there's one funny little story, I think, is the flip book. You know, I think that's a great example of the Stygian collaboration. I forget, I think I don't know if it was a Zoom or an email chain, and it was probably late in the process, and someone brought up the idea of a flip book, you know, and that's kind of crazy.
Zoom. It just hit me, and I was like, wait.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yes.
The early, the early flip books, but I don't know any other group of people that would have, like, everybody would have been right, you know, everyone's on board right away type thing, but we all just looked at it and we were like, flip book? Yes, let's do it. Let's make it happen. And I think, you know, NYCO had to scramble and it was last minute, and he's like, what kind of bird should it be? And I'm like, make it a Ryukyu minivet, which is my favorite bird. And we all were just instantly on board. And I don't know what that says about all of our mental states, but you know, it's a joke. But I think it's awesome that we, you know, any other shop who would, you know, like, oh, what do you? It's too late. We can't do that. There's no time to add in a flip book. Are you crazy? Like, flip books are silly. But I think we all just were instantly on board, and I think that says everything about Stygian. And I don't know. Are we all just like kids, like flip book, yay? But so I thought that was awesome. After that happened, I was like, yes, this is the right place.
I think it was. I mean,
it was so much fun. And sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it was so much fun. Like exactly what you said, Matt. How everyone was just like, I think I said like, oh my God, wait, what if we did this? And everyone was like, yes, we absolutely have to. And it was so cool because, again, you know, coming back to things that you wouldn't necessarily have gotten to do otherwise. NYCO, I remember you coming in and being immediately like, I've been playing around with animation. I can do this.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it's funny. It sounds silly to say this out loud but it's like, you know, oh, it's just like everybody really believed in making the project the best that it could be, and it's like, I think every creative team says that about their project, and I think they do genuinely believe it. But I've definitely seen, and I mean, like, I'm not saying, I mean, I feel like the stars lined up for this project in terms of sort of like being able to have, you know, like having, you know, an extra 3 hours one day that I wasn't expecting. I'm being like, oh my God, yeah, I could do this animation. Like, all the stars lined up. And so we got to do all of these wild ideas for the book. But there's definitely, you know, projects that I've kind of been behind, you know, the scenes of, where it's like people are talking about, we just want it to be the best it can be. And it's like, that's true, but it's also kind of like, you can kind of tell that at some point it's really about like, no, we just need to get this done. You know, like, it needs to get done as soon as humanly possible. And it's like, and like I said, I'm not trying to disparage, you know, editorial teams and publishers and stuff who do have, I mean, we did have deadlines with this book. So I'm not trying to say that there's no, you know, disparage people who are like deadline minded first and trying to leave as big as windows as possible to make sure that they get their books printed on time, because that's very important. But it's, yeah, it's just so, oh, it's so disheartening as a creative, when it's like you have a lot of these last minute sort of ideas, and you're like, oh my God, we just came up with this, it would be so good, let's do it, and to be like, we ran out of time, we can't do it, and to just be like, oh, okay. It is just such a deflating, it is such a deflating feeling, and so I kind of feel like I genuinely believe that everybody involved with this project was, and you know, and Holly, like, this is so much kind of on Stygian for making all of these last minute things, kind of accommodating them and letting them happen, and letting everybody involved make the best book possible. It was kind of you sort of being in charge of all the moving parts of like, we can do this, we can move things around, but let's just make this the best. You kind of gave everybody the opportunity to do their best work, and everybody was passionate enough about it that they were like, I will do my best. I want to do my best work. You know, I want to do, you know, and so, yeah, it's not every project that I do that has that same commitment from the people kind of running the show. You know, a lot of times just, well, you know, we just have to get this done. And it's like, it's tough. It's a balancing act. And I'm not saying that it's easy by no way.
All your publishers are going to be pissed at you now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny, right? Because it's this whole, there's the whole, you know, done. One thing I struggle with a lot is this whole sort of, this done is better than perfect thing. And it's like, and it's tough, because it's like, I agree with that, but there are some things where, I mean, this book, Dark Flock's a great example of like, done is better than perfect. And it's like, the book would have been fine without the animation. The book would have been fine without some of the revision, the sketches that I, you know, some of the sketches and stuff in the book, they're completely different from like the first ones that I sort of conceptualized. And it was like, it would have been fine if they were just done. No one would have seen the book and be like, wow, NYCO really phoned it in on this. But being like, no, I think I can do better than this. And putting work out into the world where it's like, I did the best I could, and I'm really happy with that. And it's tricky. It's tricky because that whole done is better than perfect thing. It's like, if you chase perfection, you kind of give yourself, like, there does have to be a deadline at some point. You can't just keep, because you will go crazy just trying to like revise and revise and revise. And you're like, I almost have it. And so you don't want to be chasing perfection, but sometimes things do just need like a little bit of extra. And it's a lot of times just that bit of extra time after most people would be like, it's done, we're done, we don't have to worry about it anymore. And then there's like, I don't know if we're done yet, a few more hours, we could get this, you know, we could just really bring this up to like 110. And
well, and yeah, in all my years of putting together creative teams, because even on my like my LinkedIn profile and stuff, I say that, you know, my passion is bringing creative people together and like helping them to thrive and that sort of thing. And I would say that one of the most prominent things to look for is just passion. Like if you have a partner or a team where everyone is equally as passionate, then you're going to meet your deadlines, but you are also going to do that extra little mile of like, okay, I already formatted half the book, but I really want to throw in this little flying bird in the bottom corner, and you're going to do it, and you're going to make it work.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, right? Because there was so many things with this book where it was like, it was more work for everybody. It wasn't just me doing wasn't just like, oh, well, this is more work for NYCO, but he doesn't mind doing the the mini vet animation. It was like, you yourself knew that you were going to have to be taking time in to like go into every single page of the PDF and like insert this bird animation. Like, it was more work for everybody, but all of us were kind of like on the same page and just so excited and wanted to match each other's enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's a big thing about collaboration is like when you're kind of just inspired by somebody and you were just like, oh, like I love how passionate they are about this. Like I want to show up and like match their energy. Like it would be a disservice to everybody involved if I wasn't matching this person's energy because they're so excited about this. And I mean that's a big part of collaboration too, right? Like it's just and even not even just in the realm of creative, artistic collaboration, but just in general, like people love being around other people who are like passionate, and like it's such a sort of connecting force, and you want to be around people. You want to be around people that have these like, grand ideas and visions for things and are just really passionate about it. And they're like, how can I help out with this? Like I want to be a part of this, And I definitely felt that feeling, when you reached out to me originally with the Dark Flock manuscript, and you were like, we're looking for an artist, and getting to read it and be like, holy shit, like this Matt guy's really into birding. Like and it was funny, right? Because it's like and it was like I was never really a birder, but it's like just it's the passion for somebody's special interest that I responded to, even though it wasn't my particular passion. And it was funny because
I think it's just to say I think we all pay more attention to birds now as a team.
Well, like
you've inspired us, Matt.
Honestly, like after like that is 100% what happened. After I finished all the artwork and we had the book launch, I was on vacation, took like a family holiday. We're out in Calgary at the zoo, and I was like just like looking around at all these birds flying around. I'm like, I think these are magpies, and it was just like and I was like just looking at all of these magpies flying around the Calgary Zoo, and I'm like, these guys are just like overrunning the place. And it's like I 100% now, wherever I go, whenever I see a bird, I'm like trying to idea it. I'm trying to, see if I can like pick out its markings or just be like, oh, what kind of bird is this? And it's like, I get it now. Like I understand the appeal of bird watching and birding and just like how, just like how, almost like meditative it can be, but it's just like such a fun kind of cool, just noticing the world around you, but yeah, just that passion that you so obviously have for it, Matt, it's infectious, like that's the thing, is passion is infectious. And yeah,
you're one of us now. You'll be receiving your package in the mail. You got to sign it in blood, and you're one of us now, the bird people.
I love that so much, and I think that's one of the best things about being around people who are so passionate is that their passion becomes your inspiration to be passionate about the same or similar things.
Yeah.
And so it's like, now you guys are looking at birds. Now after this call, I will be looking at birds. I've never like one of the things Matt said was like, they're singing these beautiful songs, but then they're about violence and sex, and I've never thought about it that way. And it makes me one want to read the book even more, and two want to go out and like go near the birds. And the thing is that if you read a book and you can tell the person wasn't passionate writing it, it was to fill some sort of quota. You can tell the team just kind of threw something together. When something artistic becomes too corporate, becomes too much about profit, too much about deadline, too much about get it done in a certain thing because that's what the shareholders want, any of that energy, if it flows into a work too much, I feel like people can start to feel it. And then you don't have that passion transfer into inspiration anymore. There becomes this disconnect versus if you get around people who are just entirely passionate about what they're doing. I think one of the main things I learned really early on in sort of my, like online author career kind of thing was I was around people who very much so saw writing as their business versus loving the writing craft. And that's one of the reasons and the inspiration behind calling this podcast the Writing Craft Podcast, is because focusing on the actual craft of writing was what, kind of the inspiration was, because it's a pun for witchcraft, but also at the same time, I love so much the artistic endeavor of, the actual craft that goes behind writing, the craft that goes behind learning how to do art in any form. And so loving all of that, I find to be a very different beast than filling a quota, doing it because you think it's a good business model, different things like that. And getting around people who are genuinely passionate about their stories and other things like that, or, art in general, or passionate about creativity and collaborating together, is a different beast entirely than just filling some sort of quota and making yourself into a number. It's a different experience entirely.
It's, I find, like, I've been doing this full time. I mean, not full time, but just like not with the, like, my wife and I have a 6-year-old at home with us full time, so nothing else is full time. But like I've been without a day job, kind of this being my main gig, making art and comics and stuff for like since 2016. And it's very interesting, just kind of like traveling to conventions and talking to other artists and seeing other artists and kind of what their businesses are. And it kind of at one point kind of dawned on me that there's sort of like, there's artists who kind of like begrudgingly are like, well, like I have to do some business. Like there's artists who happen to be business minded, and then there's business people, like business owners who happen to make art. But it's like, and it's very hard to find to be someone in the kind of in those two intersections. But I think that's where you want to be. Like, you don't ever want to be somebody, and people can tell, if you're just someone who like doesn't actually care about your work, but you're just basically like, well, this will sell, and just kind of like filling up the world with like this kind of like meaningless like clutter that doesn't say anything, that isn't your passion. You're just like, well, this will make me some money. Like people are going to notice that sooner or later. But you also don't want to be an artist where you're like, I love doing this and I don't want to do anything else, but I also don't I don't want to play by anybody's rules, and I don't care if I sell stuff. It's like you have to, like, if you love this and you want to get it out there and you want people to buy it and to enjoy it, like, you kind of have to treat it like a business. And so it's such a hard line to walk. And that's one thing I kind of always struggle with, is just like like kind of just trying not to falter too much into one of those camps where I'm like, am I just like a small business owner who happens to peddle art, or am I an artist who's not running a very like good business and like not paying my bills? Like, what am I, like, who am I? What am I doing? And it's
I thought of a good I thought of what that title could be. If you're both poor, starving businessman.
Yes. Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
I think, the best artists that I know, they always walk that tightrope of, creative and business minded. So as long as you're trying to balance it to the best of your ability, I think you're in the right place. For at least us personally, I think we're all in agreement on that,
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I will never begrudge somebody who when we have phrases like a starving artist, I will never begrudge someone who goes full on business mindset. No. I just knew very easy. I learned very early on in my time with other writers that wasn't the path for me. And when I was around types of people, it depressed me so greatly because I was like, where's the passion? Where's the fire? They became passionate about their numbers and making money. And I was like, that's great for you. I will never begrudge you that fact. Go get your dollar bills. But for me, it wasn't lighting me up inside. And so I pretty much flew onto the other side of that. I fell into that perfectionist mindset, rewriting the same book for 8 years and querying it for 2 years out of those 8. Like I was going nuts, right? Trying to go to this perfectionist, to care about my craft, not about the money mindset for those 8 years. Not the full 8, because I was on the other side with other people at the time. But then I was like, okay, no, let me just focus on my craft fully during that entire time. And yes, I did learn a lot, but also I didn't really advance my career in any meaningful way. I did learn a lot, but I didn't get to implement it at all because I didn't have another finished book, right?
Yeah,
And so that's where I'm at now.
It's hard. It's tricky.
Yeah, so I went from one complete side where I was around everybody who was business to hanging out with everybody who had never finished a book before, and then I very quickly found myself in the middle where now I have people who are, you know, publishers like Holly, other people who are doing self-publishing, other people who do traditional publishing, and so in this tightrope now I get to basically touch, you know, and interact and collaborate with people on every side of all the industries related to publishing and creativity. And I find that's where I get the most passion and everything. And that led me to realizing I would very much rather be a hybrid author than have to be stuck in a specific camp, believing one side is right versus the other side. I was like, no, I'd rather just collaborate with everybody because why would I box myself in creatively to a specific thing?
Absolutely. One thing that kind of actually reminds me of, like, I remember. So yeah, I mean, my whole thing is, you know, a lot of examples of, you know, the artistic, creative lifestyle and everything. You know, I'll go to comics because that's kind of what I grew up on, and sort of what I kind of learned about the creators and kind of, and so one of the most interesting kind of anecdotes is like Bill Watterson, who drew Calvin and Hobbes, and then Charles Schulz, who drew, you know, Charlie Brown and Snoopy, like Peanuts. They both have very
I know what you're getting at here.
And so basically, like Bill Watterson, it's interesting if you look at their childhoods and their upbringings. Like Bill Watterson was very creative, you know, like this is the artistry. Like I never want to sell this out. This is my creation. I don't want it to be an animated cartoon. Like I created this thing and it means so much to me, and I just want to maintain the same integrity that it has. And Charles Schulz, you know, like basically like sold, like I still think there was plenty of integrity to his strip, but he also, you know, like anytime anybody wanted to like license Snoopy for anything, he was like, yes, please give me money. And it's like, and that wasn't greed. It was kind of like, I don't remember when I read about this, but learning that like their childhood, like Bill Watterson grew up in a very kind of like middle sort of upper class like family, and could afford things like having artistic integrity. Whereas Bill Watterson, like he grew up super poor, and when he was an adult and became a dad, he had like 7 kids or something. So he was basically like, I need to provide for my family. Like whatever I can do to provide for my family, I'm going to. And so it kind of reminds me of what you were saying there, Jen, where it's like there was nothing wrong with what either of those creators did. You know, both of those paths were admirable. You know, taking care of your family financially, admirable. Also admirable to kind of hold up this work, this creative work that you're very passionate about, and being like, I don't want to sell out. Like, I don't want to sell this out like this. I don't want this to be cheapened by just kind of appearing on every lunchbox and, you know, breakfast cereal and everything. So it's like they're both valid, but it's also interesting kind of like what leads people. You know, there's a lot of somebody's own sort of lifestyle and kind of like that they carry with them to how they approach their art as well, you know?
Yeah, and I think too, like we can't make blanket statements from, you know, one side or the other. Like, you know, if it works for you as an artist, it works for you as an artist, if you know, whichever path you're going to take. But then there are still, you know, on the opposite side of that, there's the ethics, right, of artist integrity, publishing ethically, you know, not scamming people, different things like that. And when you start going into that path, that's where it becomes a negative thing. So there's this happy medium where you kind of touch base with, you know, okay, I'm going to do what I can with my family. I'm going to go and actually I'm going to preserve my artistic integrity. All of that in this middle land is great. But then if you get into the polar opposites of that, you have one side who never ever shares any of their work, period. And you'll find it as their grandchild after they've passed away 60 years later in a bunker somewhere.
As long as they haven't burned it.
And on the other side of that, you have someone who's just a complete, you know, sellout. You have, you know, the J.K. Rowlings of the world. And I love Avatar: The Last Airbender, but like the creators of that break literally will go and put their characters on any merchandise possible, and it is not because they're hard for money. Whatsoever. And I'm like, I'm you know, as the consumer of those things, I'm like, great, I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. I want to go purchase these things, but then I also you know, there's tons of people who love Harry Potter, but then don't agree with J.K. Rowling or her ethics, so then they don't want to give her money. And then for me, I have a deep-seated hatred for Bryke, but I'm still over there wearing my like T-shirt of Avatar, and I'm like, I'm a hypocrite. So I, you know, but you know, there's if you're, as long as I think you're trying your best to do what's best for you as a creative, collaborate with other people with a good heart and good intention, you're doing what's best for your work and for your wallet at the same time, and try to maintain that happy medium, you're not going to really fall onto these outskirts of everything. But you know, from one side of things, when you become sort of this sellout motif, you go, okay, my work is worth more than it is, and I'm going to get as much money as possible from it. On the flip side of that, you totally believe my work is the worst, terrible thing to ever exist on the planet. Burn it. And so that in the end becomes down to like a you know, an author's self-esteem. And it's so funny to me as well, because typically when I see authors who are on those polar opposite sides of things, I look at one who's an egotistical maniac and going, you're actually not that good as you think you are. Burn it. And then I look at the person who burned their manuscript and I'm like, why? You're the best writer I've ever read. Like, what are you doing?
Like, did you see this guy over here? This guy over here is, like, these people think they're the best. And it's like, it's not even that good. And you're burning yours.
Thank you for not burning your writing, Matt. You know, not burying it out in the woods. Please. I'm very appreciative.
People have been...
I do have a burn pile though, but every now and again,
you know what? I knew it.
He's over there. It's cold watching birds at night. Let me just take the manuscript and put it in the fire. Perfect.
People's eyebrows shoot up when I describe the book to them. Like I've done like a few like markets and stuff where I'll have copies of the book for sale, and so I'm just doing my quick elevator pitch, and I'm like, it's like Twilight Zone for bird watchers, and people's faces are just like, you know, their eyebrows just, and they're like, what? And
exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. It's just such a fun niche. It just means a lot. Like people are really, really enjoying it, and it's just just being able to kind of share that with people, you know, and you know, it's your work, but it's really cool that I got to be a part of it, and then I got to kind of like bring, you know, almost like an ambassador, you know, kind of bringing it to people and sharing it with people, and it's super cool.
And I'm so glad you're out there doing that. It's so awesome, and I think we really just had a team, honestly. Not to, you know, pat us on the back any more than I already have, but I absolutely think we did.
I mean, I think
it wouldn't have been the same without NYCO's art. So everyone kind of, it's like an object now of I don't want to say an object of beauty, but kind of like this bizarre object of fascination, and people flip through it, and every few pages you go, ooh, and and the cover and everything just came together so well that I can't imagine how it would have been without you, man, without everybody. But I mean, you know, you were describing Holly's role earlier, and I was thinking herding kittens, but I guess it was more like herding birds somehow. I don't know. That's a weird image. Herding
magpies.
Yeah.
Pishing birds.
Yeah.
That was me. Every
Try it though. Next time, if you see a bird hiding in the bushes, give a little psh, 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 and it'll pop up and look at you, and you'll get a good view of it. So,
I will. I already walk around doing pretty much the same thing to cats all the time, so I just have to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess we're coming up on our hour here. I'm gonna ask a final question and then hand it off to Jenna as well to get her final in. I wanted to just ask you both, like, with, you know, obviously this was a positive experience, so reflecting on your positive experience with collaboration, how are you going to take that into your future with artistic works and your future collaborations and creativity? How does that color what you do moving forward?
Well, I'm you know, as a birder and a writer, I'm a bit of a loner. So maybe this will help me be less of a kind of paranoid misanthrope and be more open to working with other mammals.
Perfect.
I guess, yeah, for me, it kind of just reaffirmed my, earlier I was talking about how, it's just like, sometimes it's hard to know, who your right collaborators are, but this book just kind of reaffirmed for me that like, you'll know them when you see them, and to just anytime I'm sort of hemming and hawing about, anytime like new opportunity comes across my desk, it's just like, if I'm not feeling it right away, it's like, just don't do it. Like if it's something that's meant to be, like you will want to do it and you will do your best work. And it was just so satisfying for me to, all the work that I did for Dark Flock, not to sound full of myself, but I'm really happy with how it all turned out. And it's, that's a bit of a rare thing to say as an artist, where usually you can nitpick all the stuff you didn't like about a piece that you did, and I look through the book and I'm like, I'm pretty happy with all of this. And it's just and it all goes back to the very first time that I discovered that I read Matt's script and his manuscript, and was just like, I like this, like I want to be a part of this. And it just, like I said, it just kind of, this project reaffirmed for me that that's that feeling in the very beginning that I want to feel when I'm collaborating with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Yeah. I don't know. I like sitting here, obviously not being part of the Stygian collection or this novel, but like I can already feel just virtually the synergy between the three of you, and so I could just imagine if we got like everybody in a whole team in a room, just the energy and the vibes that would be going on. There's just so much passion here. It's so nice.
Our Zoom calls were always a lot of fun, I think.
All right. Well, to wrap it up here, where are you guys online? Where can we find the book? Where can we find you in your next projects? If you are online, sort of where can the viewer go next to follow up with you in the book? For both of you.
Well, I'll start just by saying where they can find it. We have some copies on stygiansociety.com right now. That is the only spot where you can get the full, perfect artistic version of the ebook, because we worked with a different sort of ebook setup for the mass distribution for all the ebook files. So it's like slightly different to work with ebook formatting. So if you want to get the ebook like PDF that looks exactly like the book, stygiansociety.com. Otherwise, it is everywhere. We went with draft to digital, so it's like mass distribution. Every place in the world, essentially, you will find Dark Flock ebook. For physical books, we do have some on stygiansociety.com as well. In Winnipeg, you can get them at Raven's End Books and from NYCO at various events. We're also at Shelf Life and Owl's Nest in Calgary. And then Amazon, of course, because that's where books tend to live. So that's where you can get the book. And moving on to Matt, you don't have a massive online presence, but you do have a couple little spots.
Yeah. I've got a blog where I blog like it's 2005, since 2005. It's called Snowy Owl Lost. One word, snowyowl.blogspot.com. Yeah. And it's just sort of my mostly just birding. There's some writing stuff on there, but mostly it's just, if you want to learn more about Ryukyu mini vets or pishing, or like about the dragonflies I saw last week, you can check out Snowy Owl Lost.
And NYCO.
You can find me on, I have a website, which is just NYCORudolph.com. You can also find me on Instagram at NYCORudolph or Facebook at NYCORudolph. And I also have a newsletter you can sign up for, because social media is great, but a lot of people are also getting sick of social media. And so I'm like, well, I have a newsletter that you can sign up for on my website as well.
Perfect.
And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This was really great. I loved, again, the synergy and the energy between all of you guys and the passion for the Dark Flock project and everything. So it was great seeing you guys, and I hope everybody who watched this episode enjoyed it as much as we did. Definitely going to be looking more into collaborations and looking for the right people going forward, and hopefully it's inspired you to kind of get out of your shell, allow yourself to, get your bird calls to come out of the bushes for yourself too.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, thanks. It's been awesome.
Yeah, we're so glad you were able to make it. It was a fun conversation, and I know we probably could have gone on even longer. So thank you so much. And yeah, we'll talk to everyone next week.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.